Right, looks like we're recording. So, for some of you, it might feel like life's passing you by, like you're getting left behind. And the reason for that is because things are changing pretty quick, and they may not always make sense to you. Pouring some lighter fluid on this before I light it. It's a lot easier that way. I'm gonna break a couple of sticks and throw it on there as well. Do I have my lighter? Would have been difficult if I forgot that. Luckily, we got it. All right. Throw a couple more logs on there just for fair measure. Ooh, yeah, we got a nice little fire going there. We are all set. Anywho, as I was saying, things are changing, and people feel like they're being left behind. You know, something important that people need to understand, and that is that a young woman has a lot of value, but she doesn't have a whole lot of time to capitalize on that value. And a young man doesn't have a whole lot of value, but he has all the time in the world to create that value. And 50 years ago, which wasn't that long ago, it seemed to work out, and people naturally understood this. And we built up an economy, at least in the United States and in most Western countries. I say we like I was a part of it. You know, maybe I'm a little too young to be a part of that, but it's the way it was. And a woman's only responsibility was to find herself a husband. So, you know, she has high value. She doesn't have a lot of time. It was very easy for a woman in her early 20s to find herself a husband. A man's only responsibility was to get himself a job, get a mortgage, and find himself a wife. Then they could start a family, and you know, life was pretty much planned out. It was a much simpler time. But fast forward 50 years, we've made some changes. We've added some responsibilities to the women. Now women are expected to get an education, to get a career, you know, to pay off some of their debt, and then they can start looking for a husband. Then they can start a family. And men are expected to get an education, start their careers, you know, and maybe establish themselves in some other areas in life, and then find themselves a wife. Now the problem with this is 50 years ago, when a man had a job, he would walk into an establishment, apply for the job, get the job, and that's the building that he would go to every day for work. But careers don't quite work out like that. You know, you go to college, you get your bachelor's degree or your master's degree or your PhD, you get a major, you graduate, you finish things up. Now you're out there looking for a job, and you have a particular skill that you've learned, so you can't necessarily choose the location. You know, you go out and you apply for jobs, and they say, well, we have a job for you. Maybe you live in Pennsylvania, but the job that they have an offer for you is maybe in Seattle. So you got to move all the way across the country. You can work at the company for 3 years, maybe get a promotion, and if you accept the promotion, they can move you to Atlanta, Georgia. You know, and you can move and start all over again. And 5 years later, if you want a promotion, they can move you to Houston, Texas, and you can start all over again. So we have both men and women trying to make it in this new economy, and that's kind of the way life works. So by the time they settle down and they are established, they're in their 30s. And if you don't choose to further your education, well, they've shipped all the manufacturing jobs to other countries. So you can either do retail or food service or something like that. And you're going to struggle, and you're never going to establish yourself to a point where you can afford to start a family. So that's the problem that we're all dealing with. And, it's a massive struggle. And there is a cheat code, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But I do have to say, I understand, several decades ago, women didn't have the freedoms that they have now. But with great freedom comes great responsibility. And now we're seeing that. And it's not as simple as meeting the man that they want to spend the rest of their lives with, getting married, having children, and having a family. Now it's career, education, bills. And in the meantime, they got to have fun somehow. They got to get their experience in somehow, both men and women. So people are having sex for pleasure. They're not doing it to start families. For the first time in human history, that's the way the sexual market is going. And, that's another strange turn for the worse. So there's a lot of young men out there that are confused. They're not quite sure what they're supposed to do because they were told to pursue their education and their career, and they're pursuing that. It seems like an endless battle. And, they're just struggling in their dating life. And women, unfortunately for women, as we were saying earlier, they have all this value when they're young, but it goes away pretty quickly as they're aging. So as a woman gets her education and starts her career and does some traveling and has a little bit of fun and hooks up with a few guys and lives her life a little, before she knows it, she's in her early 30s. She's not that same 21-year-old girl. Life is a little bit more complicated. And, she's feeling like she's missed her opportunity. And men, they spend so much time focusing on their career, trying to build that value for themselves. They find themselves, a little bit aged, no longer a youngster. And they're still trying to learn the sexual marketplace. It's always changing. Technology's changing. The dating apps are changing. The social media is changing. And I see guys going with a lot of, we'll just say, bizarre and strange strategies to try to get attention from women. Men are worried about their image nowadays. Worried about the way they look. They want to looks max. They want to have a sharp Instagram. They want to have a nice looking car. They want pre-selection and social proof. All the things that we used to consider traits of somebody with narcissistic personality disorder, now we just consider it to be normal and necessary. That's kind of the state of the modern man and the state of the modern woman. Now, of course, that is just the way the workforce is. Either you choose to educate yourself and you choose a solid career and you sacrifice staying in your hometown, staying in your home state, starting a family with your high school sweetheart, or you stay at home, you stay in your hometown, and you have a really crappy job, and you struggle the rest of your life. So you can have a family and struggle, or you can have wealth and no family. Now, this isn't for everybody. This isn't a one-size-fits-all. This is just a problem that a lot of Americans are dealing with. And, there is a cheat code. Now, of course, if you're lucky enough to find somebody that's willing to travel with you and you're flexible enough to make things work, then you can make things work. But if you're just an average working class person or a young individual that just graduated high school and you're not sure what you should do, a cheat code, and this is an advice, I'm not trying to tell you what you should or should not do. I'm just telling you, this is a cheat code. You can use it, or you can decide to do something else. But for the fellas out there, find yourself a girl that is a hairdresser, that is a preschool teacher, something in that sort of a line of work that doesn't really require an extensive education, but still provides a solid job, job security, a solid career. Maybe it doesn't make the most money, but these women, by the age of 20 or 21, are going to be fully matured, fully ready to start a family, fully ready to settle down, and you can still live a halfway decent life. And for the women out there, find a tradesman, a pipe fitter, an electrician, a mason, somebody that has a skill that doesn't take a whole lot of time to learn, doesn't take a whole lot of time for him to get established in, but does make pretty good money. You have a nice solid couple, a preschool teacher and a pipe fitter. That's $150,000 a year. You can still live out the American dream. You can still have a big family. And if you make the best out of it, you can live a pretty damn good, pretty luxurious life. But I know most people out there are just going to follow what the guidance counselors tell them. And maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. You can make the decision. But they're going to pick a career. And let's be honest, when the United States shipped the manufacturing jobs away, what did they do? Well, they forced us to adapt. And the United States is really heavy in high technology, agriculture. We have Silicon Valley. Look at these American companies, Tesla, Apple. Most of these companies may manufacture in other countries, but they're still American companies. And the high technology, high education jobs for these companies are still here. So if you're one of those people that's really intelligent and you really think you can make it in a high technology field, then you can still make it here, but just understand that you're going to sacrifice quite a bit. You're going to give up a big chunk of your personal life and what could have been in order to achieve what will be. We can complain about it. I'm sure the feminists will tell the women, girl, just live it up, get your money, be independent, get your career. The manosphere will tell the men, enjoy the decline, crack open a beer and just watch it happen. But, regardless of what you choose to do, these changes are taking place and they're happening rapidly. They're day by day, they're changing more and more. And there's really not much that we can do about it. There's no sense in sitting around complaining or being upset about it. But like I said, the cheat code, if you're a young man out there, you're flipping burgers, you're working at a restaurant, you're bartending, you're working in a retail distribution center, you just realize, hey, this isn't going to work. This isn't for me. Find a trade, be a tradesman. You'd be really surprised. A lot of women are attracted by a man that's good with his hands. If you're a man that can fix things around the house, you're a handyman, that's a masculine trait. Women may not know it, but they're attracted to that stuff. And for women, like I said, a nice, personable, people person type job, preschool teacher, hairdresser, whatever, there's plenty of them out there. That's really the best way to live the American dream. And I'm not trying to sell you on it, I'm just telling you that's the way it is. So, I suppose we adapt to these changes or we get left behind. But even if we do get left behind, I suppose it's not the end of the world, but I hope we don't. Anyways, you know as well as I do that these changes are taking place and they're really making things a little bit rough, stressing people out. You know, you got to think this is the first generation of people that had to have a cell phone, a computer, you know, all this high technology stuff. All this stuff we have, it wasn't a requirement 50 years ago. You know, all you needed was the simple things, and people were happy. Sure have changed a lot. But anyways, guys, I guess I'll go ahead and shut this one off. Hope this video was somewhat informative. That's about it for today, guys. Until next time, see ya.